Anxiety self-help strategies using diet and lifestyle. We all know the world gives us plenty of good reasons to feel concerned about our lives and our future. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, nearly half of all Americans report feeling nervous, anxious, on edge, or not being able to stop or control worrying. But these reasons don't necessarily have to trigger chronic or debilitating anxiety. In fact, the harder things get in the world around us, the more important it is to find calm and healthy responses. This is easier said than done. The good news is that there are many validated self-care strategies that can help you respond to whatever challenges that life may bring you, with as much resiliency as possible. What is anxiety? Even in the best times, about 1 out of 5 adults in the U.S. and about 1 in 13 worldwide experience anxiety. In general, women tend to suffer from anxiety more than men, but it can affect people of any gender at any time of their life. Anxiety is the mind and body's initial reaction to stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situations. Think of it this way. The fight or flight response to threat activates our body, while anxiety reaction immobilizes it. Anxiety, like all physiological responses, is a useful thing in the right circumstance. In the right dose, in response to the right stimulus, a certain level of anxiety can help you pay attention and stay vigilant in the presence of danger. When anxiety becomes a chronic trait, rather than a short-term state, however, things go awry. When anxiety affects the circuitry of your nervous system, you can start imagining dangerous scenarios in your environment all the time. Studies tell us that 90% of the information traveling between the brain and the body is going to the brain from the body. If a body is sending anxiety signals to the brain interprets those signals as evidence of real and present danger. This is one of the effects of trauma in a person's history. They keep experiencing present anxiety over events that happened a long time ago. Symptoms of anxiety. Symptoms of anxiety vary from person to person, but the most common ones include feeling nervous, restless or tense, having a sense of impending danger, panic, or doom, having an increased heart rate, tightness in the chest or trouble breathing, sweating or trembling, feeling weak or tired, trouble concentrating or thinking about anything other than the present worry, having trouble sleeping, or experiencing GI problems. These symptoms, though distressing, make sense when you consider the evolutionary purpose of anxiety: to increase the odds that we prevent or survive a surprise attack. Weakness or fatigue can keep us still, while an increased heart rate prepares us to run or fight. Trouble concentrating on anything but the present worry keeps us focused. Trouble breathing keeps us quiet. Some of the symptoms of anxiety, such as insomnia or digestive problems, are not a direct result of the momentary anxiety, but rather the toll that ensues when it becomes chronic. Causes of anxiety. There are many things that cause anxiety, and for some people, there are multiple causes. Some of the most common causes include traumatic events. We tend to think of traumatic events stemming from a major accident, incident, violence, or abuse. But trauma can also be subtle, the results of a lack of emotion or psychological needs being met. Stress due to an illness or major life event. Overwhelmingly stressful life events, such as an illness, a financial disaster, the dissolution of a close relationship, or a death, may also trigger anxiety or an anxiety disorder. Some research suggests that close social ties can buffer a stressful event. Stress buildup. Stress doesn't have to be sudden, huge, and acute to trigger anxiety. It can build up over time, remaining low grade in its symptoms until eventually it maxes out above a physiological threshold. Just like driving a car with misaligned wheels, everything can seem fine until the imbalance finally leads to damage. Our constant stress, day in and day out, can finally tip over into anxiety or an anxiety disorder. Hormonal imbalances and changes. Our moods and attitudes are mediated by hormones and neurotransmitters. If these are unbalanced or depleted, we're also more prone to mood disorders such as anxiety. Other health disorders. Having other mental health disorders such as depression or schizophrenia makes it more likely that a person will also experience anxiety. Having blood relatives with an anxiety disorder. There also appears to be a genetic component to anxiety. It's probably not that some people have specific anxiety genes, but rather that some people are genetically or socially predisposed through their environment and ultimately their personality to caution and risk aversion. When triggered by life experiences, those tendencies can slip into chronic anxiety. Drugs, including alcohol. Both drug abuse and withdrawal from drugs can trigger the symptoms of anxiety attacks. Many people with anxiety also use drugs in an attempt to improve the symptoms and eventually become addicted. So the causal mechanism could go in both directions. And lastly, medical conditions. Several medical conditions can trigger or worsen symptoms of anxiety. Heart disease, diabetes, thyroid problems, and respiratory disorders can all send signals to the brain that there is danger present. And certain rare tumors actually produce fight or flight hormones in the body, and the brain interprets this as extreme stress. Many of the medications prescribed for medical conditions themselves can trigger anxiety. And in some cases, nutritional deficiencies can cause anxiety or panic attack-like symptoms as well. Foods that trigger anxiety. There are a number of foods that can contribute to a higher risk of anxiety. Not surprisingly, these constitute a significant part of modern industrialized diet. The worst food for anxiety include refined carbohydrates and sugar. Think cookies, crackers, rolls, pastries, candy. There's also fried food and trans fats. There are links between fried foods and foods containing trans fats and increased anxiety and damage to the brain and nervous system. Similar to refined sugars, fried foods deliver too concentrated a source of calories for the body, which reduces the efficiency of digestion. The more waste the brain has to clean up, the more the long-term damage can occur, leading to mood alteration, cognitive decline, and ultimately dementia. Food additives, preservatives, and colorings. There are hundreds of food additives deemed generally safe by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, but the truth is, very few of them received individual study, and even fewer are looked at for potentially harmful interactions with another. One example of this is MSG. Another very common food coloring, yellow number 5, has been shown to affect mood. Alcohol. Alcoholic beverages are closely correlated with anxiety. The obvious connection is that alcohol, as a sedative, is often used by people seeking temporary relief from anxiety. But in the long run, alcohol abuse can create anxiety as well and increase the frequency and severity of panic attacks. Caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant, and as such, it can keep you awake and feeling full of energy. It has known mood-boosting benefits for some people, but for others, it can easily tip into anxiety, especially at high levels. Studies have shown that it really depends on the individual on how the caffeine affects you. So if you know that caffeine gives you a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of jitters, probably better to use this in moderation or maybe not at all. Top foods and beverages for fighting anxiety. Since we know that certain nutrients are helpful in preventing or even reversing anxiety, the next obvious question is, where do you get these from? And the answer, yes, from food. Here are some of the top foods to feature if you want to cultivate an anti-anxiety diet and lifestyle. Nuts and seeds. These are rich in magnesium as well as tryptophan, an amino acid that the body converts into a neurotransmitter, serotonin. Berries. Berries are rich in fiber. They're also an antioxidant powerhouse, which can help protect against stress and anxiety. Tea. Green tea is rich in a source of amino acid, which has been linked to lower levels of anxiety. Beans and other legumes. Both beans and legumes are a great source of magnesium. They are also a great source of prebiotic fibers that feed the good bacteria to your gut. Dark chocolate. Yep, here's some good news for chocolate lovers, but it has to be quality dark chocolate with very minimal added sugar. It has been shown to improve mood and lower levels of cortisol, a stress hormone. Chocolate also contains magnesium and non-Hem iron. Mushrooms. Several types of edible mushrooms can strengthen the immune system and increase resistance to stress. Leafy greens. Let's face it, leafy greens are good for just about everything, and anxiety is no exception. Dark greens, such as spinach and Swiss chard, are high in magnesium and antioxidants, both which may be beneficial in fighting anxiety. Asparagus. While all vegetables are welcome in addition to a healthy diet, asparagus in particular appears to have specific anti-anxiety effects. The Chinese government actually approved the use of asparagus extract as a natural food supplement to relieve anxiety. Avocados. Avocados are rich in B vitamins, healthy fats, and have lots of antioxidants. The antioxidants in avocados work to eliminate oxidative stress. Although oxidative stress may naturally occur as part of the aging process, chronic physiological stress can exacerbate and increase oxidative damage. So add some avocados into your diet and neutralize anxiety. And lastly, fermented foods. Fermented foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, they are all rich in probiotics. They may improve gut health by feeding good gut bacteria. Believe it or not, your gut plays a major role in your overall health and your well-being, including mental health. Other lifestyle strategies for anxiety self-help. Since anxiety is characterized by worrying about things that aren't usually a real or present threat, engaging in mindful practices that train your attention on the here and the now can effectively reduce anxiety. Consider these strategies as additional anxiety resources to calm your mind and center your body in the here and the now. Mindful meditation. A 2013 study found that 8 weeks of mindful meditation was more effective in reducing generalized anxiety disorder symptoms than a cognitive approach to stress management. Staying mindful during symptoms of anxiety can also help calm them or get rid of them. Rather than fighting anxiety, mindfulness allows you just to notice how you are feeling and what you're thinking without reacting or focusing on anxious thoughts. Yoga. Yoga and other mindful movement practices are proven ways to expand a sense of safety in your body. One study found that 12 weeks of guided yoga practice reduced anxiety, as well as depression and stress. Spirituality. Exploring spiritual practices may reduce anxiety through increasing hope and reframing personal problems. Acupuncture. Acupuncture may be as helpful in treating anxiety as cognitive behavioral therapy. Several studies show acupuncture impacted the severity of anxiety and related symptoms, such as elevated heart rate and panic attacks. Exercise. Exercise of any kind is tremendously beneficial for physical and mental health. Engaging in exercise uses the stress hormones released in the anxious state and helps restore physical and mental equilibrium. Aromatherapy. Aromatherapy, or the use of scents, typically essential oils sourced by plants, also has been proven as a useful tool in dealing with anxiety. Sleep. Sleep is a two-way street when it comes to anxiety. Poor sleep can trigger anxiety, and anxiety can trigger insomnia. Helpful approaches to improving sleep include stress management, improved eating, both quality and timing, cognitive behavior therapy to establish sleep routines and create sleep triggers in the bedroom, and exercising to increase sleep drive when it's shut-eye time. Social connections. Social connection is one of the most important buffers against mental health problems, including anxiety. Feeling connected to others can decrease rates of depression and anxiety. In fact, receiving hugs are scientifically proven to reduce negative moods such as anxiety. Embracing self-help strategies and resources for anxiety. Anxiety can seem daunting, especially when you're in its grip. Some of the factors that cause it are beyond your control, such as external events and your own genetic and life history. But the good news is your diet and lifestyle choices have an enormously positive impact on both the short and the long term. If you're suffering from anxiety, remember, you're not alone. There are a lot of organizations and anxiety resources that you can lean on to make it through tough times.